Mark Rogers TV back with you. Looking back at the NFL draft from last weekend, Utah with two players selected, and we're going to bring on our guest, Shane Roberts of Block U on the SB Nation platform. And Shane, I'm going to steal a stat from you. Most defensive backs drafted in roughly the last 10 years from Utah. I would have never, with all the respect I have for Utah football, I would have carved through probably half the SEC, Ohio State, Florida State, USC, some programs like that before I would have jumped on Utah for that stat. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, well, in the SEC, you actually have to have productive offensive to challenge cornerbacks, and then Ohio State and Big Ten, same similar thing. I mean, that's just ground and pound. And yeah, Utah. Before we really get into the discussion, a lot of people don't realize Utah runs a NFL style defense, and a lot of the scouts for NFL teams, they respect that greatly, and they see that, and they can see that these guys can step in and contribute right away. Press man, one-to-one, it's you beat me or I beat you, and that's why you see all these corners getting drafted out of the U.
Very good stuff. So the latest addition, of course, Keith McGill, a player that I have to admit I wasn't, I knew the name, knew the reputation, didn't see him play a whole lot, saw quite a bit of tape on him as we prepared for a lot of NFL draft shows, a guy that isn't going to wow you with the stat sheet because they probably didn't throw at him. 13 passes defense last season, but he goes at pick 116 to the Oakland Raiders. And your thoughts about McGill in regards to his production at Utah and how he could possibly translate to the NFL?
Well, you probably wouldn't see a lot of film on McGill because he really only played the one season. He came out of JC as a safety, and as soon as he was on campus, he was regarded as this program-defining safety. He was very highly recruited. He got injured pretty early on that first year he was on campus. He only played about 3 or 4 games, so he had to sit out the rest of that year. Last season, before this previous one, he actually was transitioning to cornerback, so they kind of used they did use a red shirt on him to not only allow him to completely heal, but also from a shoulder injury, but also make that transition to corner, which Utah has a very good habit of moving people around. For example, Sean Smith, starting corner now for the Kansas City Chiefs, actually started out as a running back, then went to wide receiver, and then Coach Witt looked at him and said, "No, you're a corner." And then now he's making a lot of money in the NFL. Same thing with Paul Kruger, the defensive end down in Cleveland. He started out as a quarterback. He's now making a lot of money in the NFL. Even Eric Weddle was a quarterback at one time. So they're not scared to move these guys around. And they saw McGill. They saw his size and his reach, frankly. And they said, you can be a great corner. Early on last season, he was still getting used to the position. As the season went along, he really started to find a groove and play very, very well. Yeah, he led the conference, or one of the leaders in conference, and pass defense. They didn't like to throw at him a whole bunch just because he was so long and lanky. Hopefully he'll be able to continue the great tradition of Utah corners in the NFL.
And Shane, I heard that right. Paul Kruger was a cornerback?
Quarterback.
A quarterback. A quarterback. Okay,
Yeah.
well, I can't really even see that, but that's pretty amazing that, yeah, he's a D-end, outside linebacker, basically D-end, yeah, in the NFL right now. Very, very interesting stuff there. Just looking at the stat sheet and what's jumps out at you looking at last season's defensive stats sheet, it's fairly obvious that Trevor Reilly, in terms of sheer stats, was making the most plays, led the team in tackles, for loss and sacks. Trevor Reilly going to the New York Jets, 7th round. Your thoughts on his production, which is pretty obvious, but how he may transition to the next level?
Well, Trevor, early on in the season, by many people, were actually picking him anywhere from a 1st to a 3rd round pick. He's got high round talent. The concern with him, and it also validates Trevor Reilly as a competitor, is he played the entire 2012 season with an ACL injury. I believe it was torn, and he played basically the entire season on a bad leg, and his stats dipped a little bit. He had off-season surgery going into this previous season, and then obviously the stats show themselves. He's also a return to LDS missionary, so he's now going to be a 26-year-old rookie. A 26-year-old rookie with a previous knee surgery, and they also had to scope his knee before the combine. So that definitely scared off what looks to be plenty of teams. So he was a steal in the 7th round if he can stay healthy. The kid has a nose for the football. He makes a ton of plays, and he's a heart and effort guy. The team rallies around him. He never gives up. If you just go back, the way he finished his career at Utah was with a game-winning interception against Colorado, and then he chucked the ball into the stands. He's just a pure heart guy. He will unify a locker room, which the Jets probably need. And he'll do anything he can do just to contribute to a team. We're huge Trevor Reilly fans here. He's fought enormous personal issues. His young daughter had cancer, and they've been fighting that. So we're all rooting for him like crazy. And yeah, he's going to make plays. No doubt about it. He's just got to get a chance to get on the field and really acclimate to what's going on.
All right, Shane. Those are the 2 draftees. Then we move on to the free agents. The one that caught my eye, of course, you got Jake Murphy, a tight end, picked up by the Raiders, caught 25 for 417 and 5 touchdowns. That's the stat sheet. Not knowing the Utah offense as well as maybe I should, there's this difference between the 2 tight end sets that we currently have. Typically, if we're just looking at 2 types of tight ends, the inline guy, then the guy that splits out a la Jimmy Graham. Your thoughts on Jake Murphy, what type of tight end he is, and then any other free agents that are out there from Utah?
Sure. Yeah, Jake Murphy, and if you've ever watched a Utah football game on national TV, they will be more than happy to let you know he's the son of should-be Major League Baseball Hall of Famer Dale Murphy. So the kid has a lot of athletic ability. He was actually a shock. We all kind of figured he would have got drafted. The kid has a lot of talent, a lot of skill. He has great hands. He'd be more your Jimmy Graham type. He splits out. He was an integral part of Utah's offense last year, so much so that he went down in just right after the Stanford game. I don't remember off the top of my head. He had a wrist injury, and then that just absolutely brought Utah's offense to a halt. Last year, Dennis Erickson, who's still on staff, was the primary offensive coordinator. He built the offense around the tight ends at Utah. There's still one more on campus that also went down last year, but as soon as Jake went down, things came to a screeching halt pretty quick because Travis didn't have an outlet guy. They went pretty much 4 wide once Jake went down, and that also hurt pass protection because Jake could stay in and chip and give Travis a little bit of extra time. He's got great hands. He came back against Oregon, and he absolutely lit up Oregon, and it kept Utah in that game for 3 quarters, and then obviously Oregon does what Oregon does. They run away from people. But Jake Murphy, we kind of thought he would get picked up and get drafted, and he had a lot of overtures once the draft was over. But yeah, he's going. He's going to the Raiders with Keith McGill. So we're kind of in Bronco country here in Salt Lake City. So it's going to be kind of funny to watch a lot of Ute/Bronco fans trying to cheer not only for Jake and Keith in Oakland, but also we got Eric Weddle in San Diego, and we also have Alex Smith and Sean Smith in Kansas City. So a lot to it. He's a great tight end. He should make some noise in the NFL.
Any other free agents out there that could possibly get jobs or have signed contracts yet?
Well, there's Tenny Palapoy. He was one of our defensive tackles last year. He filled in the spot for Star Lotulelei. He's a big guy, 330 pounds, run stuffer, very similar to Star. He just doesn't have the raw talent that Star does, and he's in San Diego right now. He signed as a free agent. He was all Pac-12, started all 12 games, finished the senior season with 53 total tackles, 9.5 for loss, 4.5 sacks, a forced fumble. Again, just another really good defensive lineman. He should stick. Anthony Denham is a Utah wide receiver last year, signed as a undrafted free agent to the Houston Texans. The thing with Denham, he's about 6'6". He's built like a freight train. He has pretty good wheels, but he was a big disappointment here at Utah. He came in with a lot of fanfare. He couldn't quite stay healthy the first couple of years, and that really put him behind the 8 ball. I hope he sticks in Houston. They obviously need the help on the offensive side of the ball. And with him moving to tight end, that might help him quite a bit because he had a hard time getting separation with corners, but if you put him up against a linebacker or something like that, that could be a good situation for him. Carl Williams is a name that a lot of people probably aren't familiar with. He's kind of your traditional bowling ball fullback, but the kid is pretty elusive. He's also going to Oakland. If he sticks, he'll be a special teams guy. He has a lot of ability catching the ball and running out of the backfield, but he just wasn't gifted with the measurables. He's just kind of a short, little stocky guy. If he sticks, that'd be great. Vincent Jones last year was on the offensive line. He's in Kansas City with the other Utes that are there. And then LT Tuipulotu is going to Green Bay. So those are pretty much all the undrafted guys. I'm not sure how many of them stick. Tenny Palpoy should stick in San Diego. Everybody else is kind of a wild card. Vincent Jones and LT Tuipulotu might stick. Carl Williams and Anthony Denham, they're going to have a heck of a OTAs and rookie mini camps and stuff like that to really stick. But everybody else is in pretty good shape. First and foremost, Jake Murphy will stay with the Oakland Raiders. There's no doubt in my mind.
Heard a stat during NFL draft time that about 50 free agents made it to NFL camps last year and made the first roster on opening day. So that's kind of the odds that these guys are looking at, because it seems like every team that I'm looking at in college football, every major program, producing like 6, 7, 8 guys, something in that range, that are going as free agents. So when you start to do the numbers there, yeah, it's a difficult task to make. So there's a reason that NFL teams are interested, but there's also a reason that they weren't drafted as well. This is basically the first time we've had Shane Roberts on from Block U on the SB Nation platform. And Shane, in addition to the exceptional insight into the personnel, which I love, the name dropping of Flipper Anderson in the last video, and now Dale Murphy, I love that, as well as somewhat amateur sports historian actually shot a video, defending Dale Murphy's credentials for the Hall of Fame in baseball there.
With Jake is he actually committed to our rival, BYU, and then he went on his LDS church mission. So he's also going to be a 26-year-old rookie. But right as soon as he got off his mission, he didn't really like what was going down in Provo, so he came up to the hill up at the U, and the kid's special. He's a playmaker. There's no doubt about that. He has his dad's innate ability just to make great plays. Obviously, different sport, but he has great hands. He made a catch against Oregon, just one-handed over the middle that just everybody's jaws dropped. But he was a big shocker. We all kind of thought he would come back for his senior season, just because he's so inexperienced. And he doesn't have a lot of football. He doesn't have a lot of film. So we kind of figured he'd come back. We thought Coach Witt would convince him into staying, but again, when you're dealing with LDS athletes and their age, that clock's ticking, and they need to get out there as soon as they can and get the money while they can get it.
Yeah, especially in the NFL. It's a short career, and you hit the late 20s, and yes, the clock is definitely ticking in that sport as well. It's Shane Roberts of Block U, the SB Nation platform for Utah athletics. Check out these videos and check out his work there as well. It does some great work. I love the insight, because it really catches me up on certain football teams, Utah in particular. On this one, we talked NFL draft here. Going to have Shane back. A series that I love, where we talk about the best wins and the worst losses in program history, at least as long as these bloggers have been talking football. So, Shane, we'll have you back, and we'll talk about some Utah football history.
I'm excited. I can't wait.